Good evening, everyone. Today is January 29th. This is the meeting of the Westport Audit Committee. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with Governor of Massachusetts Charles Baker's March 12, 2020 orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. That order continued by action of Governor Maura Healey with the signing of supplemental 2023 budget allowing remote and hybrid meeting options for the public bodies through March 31st, 2025. Under Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. I will call the meeting to order. I have been told that it is not necessarily the right thing to do to pledge allegiance if you don't have a flag present, but I don't have a flag present, so I'm going to dispense unless anyone has a strong objection to the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sure we all do pledge allegiance to, certainly to the town of Westport. The first order of business here is reviewing the minutes of October 2nd. This says 2023. I guess that is right. That was that long ago. I had not looked at the date, but I did review the minutes. Does anyone have an issue with the minutes that they would like to move?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to accept the minutes of October the 2nd, 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay, Gloria Cabral has seconded that. Given that we do have a remote meeting, I will have to take a roll call, so please state your name and your vote. Mr. Brewer.
Aye.
Gloria.
Aye, Gloria Cabral.
Jean-Francois.
Aye, Jean-Francois Paquet.
And Cindy Brown, aye. Okay, the vote is unanimous.
Well, with one abstention, one absentee.
Right, one absentee. Unanimous of those present.
Yes.
Okay. Next order of business here is discuss the status of the town audit. So we have with us today both the town accountant and the town treasurer collector. We'll start with the town accountant. I know, Nicole, you were not able to attend our last meeting. I believe you were at a class then. Why don't you tell us a little bit as to where we are regarding the audit?
Okay, so the audit is in process. The auditors were in the week of December 11th. They've done all their gathering of information, and they're working on the audit. I got an email from Tony Roselli earlier this week or end of last week, that says that it's probably going to be about another month, because just like everybody else, he's having staffing issues. People are still getting sick, working remotely. So he said probably 3 weeks to a month before we even have a draft of the audit.
Okay. Did things go smoothly on your end with the information that they requested?
Yes, everything that they were requested, I was able to give them. Same thing with the school. They usually do like 4 days at town hall and 1 day at the school, gathering up information, whatever they needed, we, got them. They haven't been too many questions since the audit, but I'm still working off of incorrect information previously. So we're still working through some of the kinks and some of the mess that was left behind. So, but I don't foresee any big issues going forward.
Okay, so they didn't have any sticking points so far?
Not that I know of. Not yet.
Good. Now, Sue, how about on your end? Anything unusual, or everything go pretty smoothly on your end?
I think everything went smoothly. We're just Nicole and I are just looking into some minor differences that we had, and we're trying to resolve those. Some of them are quite old. I know I've been working on trying to get my collector's office up to par with doing things more timely to make things easier. I know Nicole's got brought her assistant on board to do some more things with the cash reconciliations to get things a little more timely. So that should be really good.
Yeah, so has that started to slip again a little bit? Are there issues that as to why that has not been able to stay on track?
I think it's as much as anything, it's just that unfortunately, trying to meet all the deadlines that we have to meet, that when one department has time to work on it, the other department doesn't. Where, right now, I think Nicole has a little free time, and we're working on ACAs and W-2s and things of that nature, and a tax deadline. So it's like, trying to get us both on the same page, trying to work together is a little challenging sometimes.
Right.
And yeah.
I had kind of a leftover question. I'm not really sure if this is the right time to bring it up, but I will. I know in the management letters of past, and we've talked about this many times before, this is on the subject of the police detail, how there had always been this issue of, a difference or an outstanding amount on police detail. With the changing of the police chief, do you see this as an opportunity perhaps to perhaps see if they have a different process? I'm under and I'll call it an assumption because it is an assumption, that when they send out a bill to detail, I'll just use National Grid as an example. If they send out a bill to National Grid for detail work, for some road work or whatever that was done, do they have a good way of reconciling that National Grid paid for invoice number 678 the correct amount, and that it's kind of checked off as being paid, so they always know who has paid their detail and who has not? Has anyone looked at that process?
So they do have a system in place for it. The problem is, again, like, everything else, it was done one way, and there's a lot of old items that were never taken off the books, partial payments, things like that. I've been trying to work with the administrative assistant at the police department to get this all settled. We did have a little bit of better numbers this year, but she also has been kind of in and out for the past year with her twins. So it's been a little bit difficult with timing issues, but I'm hoping probably in the next month to sit down with her and go over the details, go over all her receivables and make sure everything is up to date, so that June 30th, we don't go, oh my God, what am I going to do?
So do you think they have a good process to begin with? I mean, do they have a good way? I mean, it's, it's a basic debit and credit issue. I mean,
yeah, it's basically, she bills it. She has a system. All the bills are in. When the money comes in, she marks them paid. I mean, it's pretty simple. But like I said, some of the really old stuff has to come off because the balances they're out of whack.
Yeah. So I know that we've talked sometimes with Tony Roselli about trying to deal with, cleaning the slate on that issue. I mean, is there a way that we can kind of forget about? I mean, the officers that work the detail have been paid, correct?
Correct.
So it's the town side that's kind of out of the money, and this could go back 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right?
Yeah, we could just pick a point and say, anything that's outstanding for, say, a year.
Yeah.
And then just write off the rest of it.
Right. Okay.
There is a point where collections, it's too far to try to collect something from, say, 5 years ago. We don't want something sitting out there for 5 years, because that's, nobody's going to pay from 5 years ago.
Correct.
But
Yeah, I'm not saying
here, kind of like we do with outstanding checks. So we're not,
Right,
we do like the tailings and stuff. Pick a date and say from anything from this date back, we're just gonna write it all off.
right, right. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we should try to collect very old debts. I'm more concerned that they have a good system in place. Like National Grid, for example, I mean, they may get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bills for detail because they're all over town doing various things. And if they send one check and they're not very clear about which invoices that covers, I mean, are they able to stay on top of whether or not that's being paid? Is somebody really paying attention to marking off those things? That's the only thing I'm concerned about.
And
I'm
Madam Chair,
hoping she is, but I mean, that's hopefully what we'll figure out when we meet
Okay.
together and take care of it all.
Go ahead, JF.
so because it's a process, could we have the person, you said, Nicole, you were working with the admin person. So could that person kind of like just either provide us or come talk to us about like specifically kind of like just an overview of the process? Because one of the things that I'm still failing to see, and I don't, I will actually, what I would be interested to see is where we, the management letters and the work of the auditors. That's one thing, and we have no findings. That's great, but individually, Nicole and Susan are in charge of huge processes, right? And there's probably employee handbooks and so on. And I'm just trying to see if do we have any kind of like that. What kind of documentation do we have around processes in general, right? That's kind of like as I'm thinking, if there is documentation, then it's less chance of something bad at an audit. So it's kind of like more proactive. So I don't know if we have somewhere in the domain it already exists, or if it doesn't exist, is somebody in charge of maybe making a list of what should exist. So anyway, I'm kind of interested in the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Well, why don't we make a note? If you would like, we could invite. I'm sorry, Nicole. What is her name? The person.
Hillary.
Hillary, right? Hillary. We could invite Hillary to our next meeting and at least get that process started, because, like anything else, the old. For those of a certain age, remember the old saying about if you get hit by a Mack truck. Most people don't know what a Mack truck is anymore, but if a Mack truck came along and struck you down, could someone else walk in and pick up the pieces, and would they have a guidebook or some type of manual to help them through that process? I'm not really sure that which departments have those, but I think that that's a good point, particularly when it comes to financial matters. Susan, I know you and I had a brief conversation, and we're kind of straying away here into general matters here, but we had a conversation at one point of your office becoming not a tax collector, but a collector of all fees. Would this be something that would fall into that category?
Yes, we do have financial policy booklet in place for, and very likely not for everything, but I will say my collector's side definitely needs to be updated. I'm not sure where I left off on it. I try to update things periodically, but it's like everything else, it's finding time to do it.
Yeah.
The girls know, you change your policy on how you're doing things. Ironically, I was looking at, because we have that survey today about the job positions.
Right.
I looked at the assistant collector position, and it even says she needs to know how to run a microfiche.
Yeah.
There is so many things that are outdated in this town, in the job descriptions, in the financial policies. I've made a lot of changes to the collector's financial policies, in that I think these go back before I added in lockbox. So that has changed the way that we do things, and it desperately does need to be updated.
Mhm.
And that's probably the case you'll find throughout the whole policy.
Right. Now along that same line, would you end up being the collector as well of the receipt of payments for details?
We do, as the treasurer, take in cash receipts for all deposits. However, they identify what they're for.
Right. Okay. So you don't manage the receivable itself. You just manage the payment of it, or
Correct.
the receipt of the payment of it. Right. Okay.
Right. Each department is responsible. For example, transfer station has a way that they have to manage however they do it in their bookkeeping, how many stickers they sell, how many passes for for the bag, the stamp, the punch cards, how many of this, how many of that. So that's all how they choose to do it. A lot of these things, I think, in each department could probably be updated into
Right.
more efficient systems.
Okay.
Welcome,
I
Chris.
know Chris and the treasurer's town clerk has been updating a lot of things.
Right. Mr. Thrasher has joined us. Hello, Christopher.
Hello, my apologies for being
Oh,
late.
that's quite all right.
Thank you.
No problem. We did not have an extensive agenda, Christopher. The meeting is being recorded, so you'll be able to catch up on the first few minutes on the recording, if you'd like. But we haven't had an extensive discussion yet. Mr. Brewer, you have your hand up.
Just a quick comment. If we're going to have that discussion about details, it probably is not good to do it at the next meeting because that's the one we would hope to have the audit finished.
Okay.
And it's not of urgency, but I think it's a good suggestion. I don't mean to put cold water on it, Principal, but maybe the one after that, because it could be other things too that we need to be brought up to date on like that.
Right, as a result of the management letter, absolutely. So there may be other things on the management letter that would come up that we may invite some other parties in the following meeting. And we don't have to wait a full quarter after we see the draft audit. We don't have to wait a quarter before we meet again. So we can choose to meet at any time. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Madam Chair, quick to follow up. I think I've asked that question in the past, so I apologize if the committee already provided the answer. But say if we formulate a question, like tonight, we have a question specifically about the process, the person is not present, and is there a vehicle for the committee to send a quick letter or note or memo asking the question to that person, and saying, you can give kind of like a correspondence, so that way we don't have to necessarily have people in the committee. So I'm wondering if there's a vehicle for very like a formal correspondence. It doesn't have to be a book, but back and forth to gather some information.
Sure. I mean, we're appointees of the select board, and we have certain, I don't want to say it's not really authorization, but certainly we represent the select board. Mr. Brewer could speak to this more than I could. And if we have questions of departments that come within our responsibilities, certainly we can ask the question. We could I could send an email to the police chief addressing the issue. I would contact the chief first and tell him that we're going to ask the question and to relay the information to the admin through that. So we could certainly do some advance questions in regard to that if it's the pleasure of the committee. If you'd like me to do that, I'll be more than happy to. Christopher, this is in relation to police detail billing. So if, National Grid or whatever, uses police detail in the past, years ago, we've had issues about reconciling the amount billed as the amount received. And we're just trying to stay on top of that so that we make sure there's a good process in place to make sure that whatever is being billed is actually being received, because the town pays the detail. We pay the officer and we get reimbursed from whoever needed the detail. And so in years past, we've had some shortages in that account that we didn't receive the money from the detail, but it's too old now of an issue. Or we think we have. We can't even say for sure that that was true. The bookkeeping wasn't the best. So we're trying to make sure that it stays up to date and current, and that there's a good system to make sure that they know who's been billed and whether or not they've received payment for it. So I will, I'll be more than happy to send a note out if that's the pleasure of the committee.
Some
Well,
things.
I would say hold off on that because, as I said earlier, we probably don't have time to discuss that at our next meeting.
Okay,
Then after that,
we'll see if it comes up in the management letter again, and then we'll have certainly some good, I don't want to say ammunition, but some good material to reference regarding that. We'll see if it comes up again, and even if it doesn't, we'll certainly put that on our list of things that we should look we should look into, if that's okay with you. JF, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm absolutely okay with that. Again,
Okay.
I know, like, so this, I mean, the schedule between now and the management letter, you know, there's not much time, so I can understand that. But I'm thinking that again, it's just looking for helping to build up like some sort of like documentation or process. So when we ask a question and somebody replies with an email, then that's the artifact, right? And it's kind of like now
Yeah.
it's documented.
I think overall, I think this is an important step for this committee, because when this committee was first put together, when it was first formed, I mean, we were trying to deal with some of the very difficult circumstances that were surrounding multi-page management letter issues, things that were of a serious nature financially, that weren't being addressed properly. And we've managed to whittle that down to a very small list. And I think it's time that this committee broadened itself out a little bit, because as it relates to an audit, because things like this do come up in an audit, if there aren't proper procedures in place to document some of the financial transactions. So I think this would be a good start for us to reach out to that particular department. We can look at the Board of Health as well and ask them how they keep track of the money. I know that they no longer use cash. They're strictly using checks. I don't know if they'll ever switch to either an online system or being able to accept Venmo type payments at the transfer station, but we'll see. So, we can take it another step. Same thing with the schools. I mean,
Yeah.
The schools receive a tremendous amount of money from payments for sporting events and various things. Parents pay into transportation costs, just a way for them to keep track of that. So I think that this is a good step for this committee to take.
I was like, I like the way that, to the question, how do you manage it? So again, how do you manage the cash and the reconciliation? That's the big focus. So
Right.
we're planting the seeds.
Yeah. So Nicole or Susan, do either one of you have anything that you wanted to bring up regarding the audit or anything else?
I think everything went pretty smooth, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Roselli agrees.
Good. Good. I don't know what we're going to do when he retires, because he certainly knows where a lot of our skeletons are hiding in town hall. So he knows how to find things. He and his staff, of course, but it'll be tough once he retires. I'm not suggesting that it's time for him to retire, but I always think about that. Nicole, how about you? You have anything else that you needed to address? I guess not. So the next item on here, we're getting through this pretty quickly. We'll see if we can actually have this done by 6:30. Items not anticipated within 48 hours. I've not received anything. We've already strayed away a little bit from the agenda, but they still did come under the umbrella of the audit as those things had come up. Date of next meeting and agenda topics. Well, hopefully, once the draft is received, as Nicole indicated, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. This is the end of January, so we're probably looking perhaps sometime early March. Hopefully, Mr. Brewer, you won't be too busy on the campaign trail to not be able to join us for that meeting. But I would anticipate it would be sometime early to mid-March, perhaps, when we have a meeting. I know that I'm going to try to escape out of here for a couple of weeks, maybe the end of March. March is my least favorite month out of the whole year. It's long, it's cold, it's rainy, it's awful. So I can tolerate the cold. I can deal with January and February. March is too much for me to take. So so we'll see when the draft audit comes out, and when we can expect to have a meeting. So we'll leave that kind of loose with kind of a soft date circled around sometime mid-March. What do you think, Mr. Brewer?
Yeah, that's fine. I was going to suggest that because we need to get the audit first, and then we probably,
Right.
like I said earlier, a month away from that, and the campaign won't be a problem.
Good. Okay. You won't be having any debates or anything, hopefully.
Question for the chair.
Yeah.
So we expect a draft report by a certain date or like that time frame, but God forbid, in the past something happens and it's kind of like delayed. Is it up to the auditor to inform us about the delay, or is it up to somebody in town to ask for an ETA?
I'll defer to Nicole to some degree. I mean, they would let us know. Nicole, I'm sure, will stay on top of them, asking them, when the audit will, and if they encountered some problem, or if they have to return to get some additional information, or if they've got staffing issues, I would certainly expect that they would notify us as their client, as a paying client, that the reasons why it's going to be delayed.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Well, we want to stay on top of this. In the past, there's been some slippage, and we agreed that we would be more vigilant. And Tony guaranteed that we would have this in a decent time frame, which it is. And at our end, we've done everything we can do. So
Yeah, I'm sure that if anything happened, they would definitely let me know. I will check back with them, in 3 weeks and see how it's going if I haven't heard from them, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, Nicole, let us know when after you've contacted them in 3 weeks, what they say then.
Absolutely, I'll send you an email.
Okay. Mr. Thrasher, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, not at all. Just again, a sincere apology for
Don't worry.
a little tardy to this meeting. There's a lot going on, as you might
That's
imagine,
all right.
at my house a little bit.
Yeah.
But
we have congratulations for you, right?
yes, thank you very much. Thank you very
father?
much.
Yeah.
You there's you're probably too young to remember, Christopher, but on the Ed Sullivan Show years ago, there was a guy that would come on, and he was one of my favorites for some reason. He was the guy spinning plates on sticks. And so it was always this thing as to how many plates you could have, spinning plates. And I used to have a poster of that behind my desk. That's what, you're spinning plates all the time, and you're hoping that not too many of them fall and break. So
There's an element of that for sure.
right.
But thank you.
Spinning plates. Well, I guess, okay, so I went 2 minutes over at 6:32 because of my little story. Do we have any other business anyone wanted to discuss? No, I'll look for a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make a
Um,
motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion made by Gloria, seconded by
JF.
JF, seconded. I will take a roll call vote if you don't mind.
Aye.
Mr. Brewer,
Yes.
Gloria Cabral,
I, Gloria Cabral.
JF,
Hi, Jean-François Paquin.
Christopher Thrasher,
Aye, Christopher Thrasher.
Cindy Brown, aye. Okay, so the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much.